Did I do it correctly? Good morning. Why am I saying good morning? When I'm in front of Twitch, I think it's good morning. All right. It's going to be confusing. I've done this before, but I don't know why I'm like having a tough time remembering how to get situated because I am looking at some windows. I'm looking at some bets. Let me do this. Let me get just a second. Bear with me here on Twitter. All right. I want to get my tabs over here because I got to get my bets. I do like the sharp. Excuse me. The sharp book up as well. I like it. I don't know if you guys use it. We don't have a promo code or anything. I'm not being paid to promote it. I can promise you. I just find it to be a useful tool. But even if you don't like reading it, I like the first page because it shows the schedule, and it's just a nice, easy way to reference it. Then some additions and the projected starting depth chart. I did tweet today, by the way, my CLV update on Jared Goff. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're good on Twitch, right? W Twitch inclusive. What's up? MILF Hunter's in here. Dig that. Okay, cool. All right, I think I'm good. We got Weston in here. Love it. Lath is up here. All right. This was a bit of a last minute thing. So I don't know how busy it's going to be, but frankly, I don't care. I mean, I do this to myself. I just, walk through the teams, the bets, the lines, etc. So hopefully we can come away with something or come away with nothing. Maybe somebody's going to talk me off of it. I'll tell you right now, though, just going into it, I have done my research. The newsletter's done. I think Steak and Greg have more involvement with this division than I do. I'm not really into any of these teams, but I am at least considering doing something on one to two of them. God damn it, fucking double there. Sorry again if I get distracted. I am sweating a first 5 under here in Boston. It's 1-0, top of the fourth, lead off double. We don't like that. Okay. Embarrassing day to be a USA Hoops fan. Why did somebody just say that in my Twitch chat? Oh, hold on. I just got a client that texted me. Found an apartment we're considering. Do you want to reach out to see if we can check it out? Sweet. Yep. On it. All right. Sorry about that. So we've got AFC West tonight. We did the AFC North last time. I think I came away. Actually, I'm not even going to give you a recap. If you want the recap, subscribe to the newsletter. You know where to find it. We're going to go into the AFC West. The AFC West, obviously, you've got the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 5-1 to win the Super Bowl at DraftKings. I'm sure Weston can find a better number. You also have the Raiders, the Chargers. The Chargers are 45-1. And the Denver Broncos, who I think are going to be quite awful this season. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I know that's not really a bold take by any means. Not every take has to be bold. Sorry, I am getting a corp text as I'm getting this started. 1 second. We reached out to this place and nobody responded to know anything about them. I'll just say I'll look into it ASAP on a stream till 6. Sorry about that. It's a friend / client, so I can say things like I'm on a stream. They lost the second half outright. I don't give a fuck about the Olympics basketball team. Okay, so let's start. I think we should start with the Chargers. I mean, the Chiefs are a bit chalky. The Broncos I kind of want to end on. I want to start with the Chargers and then the Raiders. If anybody has anything, feel free to come up. And then I know we've got Twitch going in here too. So Twitch, if you guys have something, feel free. I'm going to try to do my best to look at your comments while I'm also looking at the betting board and some other research. All right. So the Chargers are 8.5 win total. 8.5 win total, which I'll be honest, I thought that was a lot of respect. I know you got Herbert, but you got nothing else after that. Harbaugh, is he a good coach? I mean, sure. It's not like your typical college head coach coming to the NFL for the first time. Let's see what he got. I mean, the dude's been in the NFL. He's older. He's experienced. He's been to a Super Bowl. So maybe there's a little bit of value in that. It's not like a fucking Urban Meyer situation. I think that's a pretty good comparison, right? Not like a Matt Rule, because at least Urban Meyer had success in the collegiate level. But the over 8.5 wins in DraftKings right now, that's the book I'm going to reference tonight, is minus 155. I thought the Chargers were going to be a 7-win team. I thought the Chargers were going to be like a 7-10 team. lacking weapons, not a lot of excitement on defense. But that line, and you can take it for what it's worth. That line to me shows some respect. So then what you have to do, obviously, is look at the schedule. And before you even look at the schedule, let's consider this. They're in a pretty weak division, right? I mean, the Raiders and the Broncos, I think, are two teams with 5.5 and 6.5 win totals. So let's just say right there, I mean, you'd have to imagine the Chargers are probably going to be favored in both those games. So let's just assume that's 4 wins. So I start to look at their schedule. It's actually quite easy. And easy is relative. We don't know how these teams are going to be, right? But they have an early bye, which isn't great. But I don't think that's good for teams that are like making a playoff run. I don't know that the Chargers are necessarily going to make any noise in the playoffs. But starting the year with the Raiders at home and then against Carolina on the road, that's probably the best 1-2, for an opponent, especially for like a new coaching system, a quarterback getting familiar with new faces. And I don't know. I mean, you got to travel from west to east, right? There's that aspect of it. But also they go from Carolina to Pittsburgh. So I think they're probably going to stay on the East Coast, come back home and play the Chiefs. Now, I'm not going to walk you through the entire schedule, but here's what I'm getting at. After the week 5 bye, they play, these are 4 of their next 5 opponents: the Broncos, the Cardinals, the Saints, and the Titans. Those are winnable games. So right there, as we get through week 10, there's essentially 6 games that the Chargers can win. So let's say they're 6-4. I'd be sweating my dick off if I had an under 8.5 win total. Need the map, Sick Money says. Oh, you absolutely will. Slater and Alt as well. Yeah, I'll talk about their play, their roster in a bit. I'm kind of just more so talking about the schedule and at least my first reaction to anything Chargers related. And again, if anybody's late, I thought this would be a 7-win team, and I saw the 8.5 over juice, and it just gave me a little bit of pause. Like, why are the sports books making you pay a premium for the Chargers to win 9 games? And then I look at it, and I'm not going to walk you through every game again, but the end of the schedule is also quite easy. I don't think Tampa is going to be a pushover by any means, and we'll talk about them soon. I am a Bucs fan. There's no bias, though. But they get the Bucs at home, the Broncos at home, at the Patriots, at the Raiders to end the year. So, again, I'm just walking you through those weeks 1 through 10. You could say the Chargers not going to win every game they're supposed to. Nobody does. But they could win 6 games. Could. And then those last 4 with the way they end, they could win 3 of those 4. So there's 9 wins. So fuck me. I think the schedule actually works out quite well for them, and that gives me some pause. Before we dive in to anything else in terms of their roster, depth chart, strengths, weaknesses, Matt, you have your hand up. Feel free to chime in if you'd like.
Hi, good evening, good afternoon to some of us.
I knew you were going to say that.
I wanted to talk or ask you specifically is, did you change your entire perspective on the Chargers because of what you saw for their season win total line?
Well, I don't really know. Are you asking me if I changed because you thought you knew where I stood with the Chargers at one point?
No, just because you said you thought this was going to be a 7-win team, and obviously that's really just based off if you would the roster, right? I mean, it does lack a lot of talent, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you feel it's a 7, if you would, let's say the CLV Kings, that's an automatic under if you see that 8.5, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm just trying to pick your brain. You're not saying that you're wrong. You feel like this was going to be a bad team until you saw the total for their wins for the season.
Oh.
So what is making you is it just because the schedule is pretty soft because they were last place? What else is leading you to lean
okay,
over it?
So you did come in late. I think I laid it out pretty well, but I said going into it, I thought the Chargers were going to be a 7-win team. I was shocked to see their 8.5 was over -155. It just gave me a little bit of pause until I was like, oh, what do they know? Until I saw the schedule. So if you look at the schedule, I think it's on the easier side. So, and I'm looking, Sharp lays it out. He says they're favored in 9 games. So it makes sense. Now, I'm not saying there's anything fishy or suspicious. And if I couldn't figure it out, if I thought there was some sort of catch, then it would give me some pause, and I don't even know if I would make the bet. But like you just said, if I'm a sharp, which I'm not, but I do like this team, or I'm sorry, I don't like this team. I do think this team is a 7-win team. I'm probably going to get there with the under 8.5 at plus 130. I was just a little surprised to see the over was such a premium to win 9 games with no weapons and a brand new coaching staff. But the soft schedule makes sense. Does that kind of answer your question?
It does, yeah. So
Okay.
it completely answers it. Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. So nice job, Brian Bello, to get out of that inning. I'm going to the bottom fourth, 1-1. I am sweating the under 4.5. Actually, I think I played it at 5 on MGM. Okay, so let's talk about the roster. And I see, wow, we have a decent amount of people in here on Twitch. You guys are hilarious. You don't like the Twitter Spaces? I love the Twitter Spaces. Okay, so yes, somebody referenced it in Twitch. By the way, anybody that's here on Twitter, I went on Twitch. A couple people in the Discord asked if I can go on Twitch too. I am on Twitch and YouTube. So if I reference any comments, that's where they're coming from. So they lost just about their entire offense in terms of the weapons. So no Eckler, no Gerald Everett. It's funny that I started with him. No Keenan Allen, no Mike Williams. Mike Williams is fucking banged up anyways. Keenan Allen also got injured a lot. But these guys were good players. No doubt about it. They're good players. I mean, when Mike Williams was healthy, he was a fucking freak. Keenan Allen was so reliable. So now let's just start with the offense first, then we'll go to the defense, and we'll kind of talk about if you think the Chargers are going to be successful, how would they go about it? New coaches, as we mentioned, Jim Harbaugh, Greg Roman is in as offensive coordinator, and the defensive coordinator from Michigan is the defensive coordinator now for the Chargers. So it looks like Harbaugh brought him over. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody can correct me in the chat or whatever. RedTube gang, what's up, Richie? I believe Roman and Harbaugh did work together in San Francisco. Now, the other thing I know about Greg Roman from experience is, again, I had Russell Wilson win the MVP fairly heavily when Lamar won it, 80-1, fucker. And I believe Greg Roman was his DC. And when I remember about Greg Roman or hearing about it, I think somebody on VSiN or maybe somewhere said they basically dumbed down the playbook, diluted the playbook, simplified it. And they had like 20 plays, 25 plays. And that's all they did. They ran these 25 plays and it was perfect. And I actually really appreciate that because it's not so much of an ego of like, we're going to make you fit the system. They adapted. They threw everything out that they had with Joe Flacco. They said, let's run some plays that work for Lamar. And it was fucking obviously brilliant because Lamar won the MVP. So what I'm getting at is I like that. You know, I think I respect Roman and Harbaugh. I like Harbaugh as a coach. I like both Harbaughs as coaches. So again, I'm talking about this because when I bet on season futures now, I really want to factor in the coaching staff. I said this last year, but I was going to make the Saints my largest play, and I didn't because I did not want to bet on fuckface loser Dennis Allen. So I think this stuff is important. If you're going to invest in a team for 18 weeks, you got to put your head on the pillow and be like, all right, did I invest in a fucking total clown? I don't think the answer is I think the answer is no with the Chargers. So if you're going to bet on them, I think you have a good coaching staff. Obviously, it's year one. So I think you have to really be careful with this team because you don't know what you're going to get. Now, let's talk about their roster, and let's start with the offense, as I mentioned. This is where I'd like to get some discussion and some banter, if you will. I like their running backs. Unfortunately, Steak is still traveling. Greg is corp today, so neither of them can make it. Steak does not agree with me. He doesn't like the running backs for the Chargers, and I'm referring to J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you a quick little story. When I'm not very good at fantasy football, but I am good at drafting some fucking dogs and finding some value. I have come runner-up twice in the last 4 years. Nobody gives a fuck about your fantasy football resume. I understand that. But what I'm telling you is this. I'm in an auction league. The best selection I made was a couple years ago taking Mark Ingram when he was on the Ravens. He was cheap as fuck. You ever do auction? If you don't, grow the fuck up. Nobody does snake anymore. Everybody does auction now. If you grow up, you're doing auction. He was like $8, maybe, out of a $200 budget. Mark Ingram was a dog. It was all about the fit. Mark Ingram, in my opinion, was a Harbaugh guy. I think these guys, we're going to talk about the injuries in a second, are Harbaugh guys. If you're going to be a run-heavy offense, I love having J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Now, yes, the injuries are a problem. J.K. Dobbins has played, I don't know, less than 10 games. I don't remember the number off the top of my head. I think he's played less than 10 games. He was fucking awesome at Ohio State. I'm a big J.K. Dobbins fan. When he is healthy, from what I've seen, very limited, obviously, looks pretty damn good. Gus Edwards, on the other hand, you know what he does that I love? It's like my favorite thing about running backs. He runs angry. He runs mean, kind of like David Montgomery. He just fucking runs mean and pissed off. I like Gus Edwards. So here's the thing. I wanted to invest on one or both of these running backs, whether it's yards, whether it's touchdowns. I can't seem to find a line anywhere. I looked on BetOnline, where I think if it's not an offshore, I don't know where you're going to find it. I didn't see anything. If you guys have seen something for this, let me know. But I am okay. I'm okay throwing the fucking risk of injury out the window and saying screw it. Because if these guys do end up being healthy, I like them in a Harbaugh offense. And what I really like, as we just talked about, is this kind of like soft schedule to start. The Raiders, the Panthers, the Steelers. Yes, you play the Chiefs, but then you get that bye. Then you got the Broncos, the Cardinals, the Saints. Remember that? I think that's good for a team that can stick to the run early. You know what I mean? And like kind of figure it out and not put too much pressure on Herbert and passing with no weapons early in the season. Stick to that run game, get it going. So that's where I'm at. I want to bet on the running backs. That's really all I want to do in terms of betting on the Chargers. I'm probably going to take their under wins. I just talked about that with Matt. Haven't done anything yet, but let's look at receiver. You've got Josh Palmer. I'm a Josh Palmer guy. Quentin Johnston, I loved him in college. Absolutely fucking hate him in the pros. I'm sure everybody else does. Ladd McConkey, guy from Georgia. He's not very big, but I think he's probably going to be fit pretty well with in the system and with a guy like Herbert. So I think Stake is picking him for his. I tweeted this, but like the most receiving yards. So for rookies, most rookie receiving yards, you're going to take Ladd McConkey. And then you've got Will Dissly for the tight end. So they drafted Slater. I think he was from Northwestern last year. He's the left tackle. Then they got Joe Alt. Joe Alt, that was my POD in the NFL draft. Harbaugh was drafting a lineman. I think I put 2 units on that. It was very heavily juiced. But people thought they were going to draft a playmaker like Malik Neighbors or something because they have no wide receivers. That, to me, says everything you need to know. I wondered. I have this line that's coming out in the newsletter. You can take the Big Ten out of the coach, but you might not be able to – no, wait. You can take the coach out of the Big Ten. You might not be able to take the Big Ten out of the coach. I thought that there was a chance we were overthinking it. Or no, maybe we weren't. We were thinking about the obvious too much. It was like Harbaugh's just going to run it down their throat. I'm like, wait a minute. That was at Michigan with J.J. McCarthy. He's got Herbert now in Los Angeles. He's probably still going to try to throw the ball. I don't know anymore. I think that showed me the fact that he didn't draft a playmaker and he did go with the offensive line. A, you want to protect Herbert, obviously, but B, I really do think there's something there with running the ball. So I don't know that there's anybody offensively I want to back in terms of Herbert, these receivers, or anyone else except the running backs. And I don't know where a line is. We'll talk about the defense, and then feel free, mid-major or late, if you guys have anything you want to talk about the Chargers, feel free. And then the defense, they've got Bosa, they've got Khalil Mack. Khalil Mack is getting pretty fucking old. I like Derwin James. I took Derwin James, I think Defensive Player of the Year or most interceptions or something last season. That did not hit. Asante Samuel Jr. is kind of a dog. A new cornerback, Kyle Fulton. And then Alohi Gilman. He's actually a Navy transfer that went and played at Notre Dame, and I'm a Notre Dame fan. That's the only reason I know that. He's kind of a dog. Here's the thing. There's no real defenders that come out. Notre Dame doesn't get like crazy athletes. They don't get SEC athletes. They just get, like, for the most part, they get like good dudes, high football IQ, and play tough. Like Drew Tranquil, like Harrison Smith. Harrison Smith's not a freak athlete, but he's just a smart dude. He's kind of always where he should be. Alohi Gilman is that kind of guy. So I think it's a really good. They complement each other well in the safety or in the secondary with all these guys. So I kind of like their secondary. I don't really know anybody else. I don't know their defensive line. I don't know the guy who's on the edge opposite of Bosa. They don't really get me excited. Let's see if I can go to the rankings. So Sharp also does these rankings for positions. I mean, the secondary's got 22nd, so he doesn't value any of these guys. Front seven, he's got ranked 27th. So I'm kind of with him on that. I don't know anyone outside of Bosa, and Bosa's sack line is like 7.5. Receivers ranked 31, running backs ranked 28th. Look, I like these running backs. Oh no, Brian Bello got hurt. Did Bello just get hurt? Oh, that's not good for my first 5 under, is it? That's not good at all. Or was he using sticky stuff? What just happened? I don't know. Anyways, I don't want to get distracted. So this is a really long-winded way for me telling you that like I'm not super into the Chargers. If anything, I would fade them. No, he broke his cleat. Oh, okay, got you. If anybody else has something that they would consider, please feel free. But I think Herbert, for the most part, is going to be fine. I think they're not going to ask him to do too much, and that's okay. I think they're going to linger in games. I think they're going to be fairly competitive, but I don't know that they're really going to pull out 9 wins. So if I'm on anything for the team, I am on the under 8.5 wins at plus money for the Chargers. I'm not really high on them. Their schedule is very favorable in my opinion, and I would be betting on one of these running backs if I could find a line, but again, I can't. All right, so before we go to the Raiders, does anybody have anything on the Chargers? Matt, Lath. Yep, you got your hand up. Lath, feel free. You go first.
I have the way for you to back the Chargers running back.
I
take Herbert's under passing yards.
Ooh.
And I briefly mentioned it. I'm not really excited about the Chargers as a whole, but when you look at their schedule, I mean, it is pretty favorable for them. I do like their offensive line, but when you put it as a whole, like, you look at the receiving depth chart, like, it's just not there for me. And I don't put any account into training camp other than the guys that are getting, you know, the ones rep with the starters and stuff like that, because that goes, like, a long way with in fantasy and investing in season-long futures, whatever.
Can you guys hear okay, by the way?
But, like, Quentin Johnston, Joshua Palmer, I think DJ Chark is there, McConkey. I mean, God forbid McConkey gets hurt. Like, I'm just not into that receiving room whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I put it in Discord like 3 weeks ago about Herbert's passing yard line. And to me, like, I understand, like, who's he going to throw to? But, like, to me, Herbert's over on his passing yards just looks like one of the easiest overs in the market to me, passing-wise. It's at, like, 3,600.
Yep.
You put it next to a couple of guys. I think it's only, like, 350 higher than Bryce Young's. It's in that realm, but I mean, I get it. You can't really put it at 4,000 with the receiving room that he has, but I just don't want to deal with, like, even if there was a line on Dobbins, I don't want to bet on a guy that's played 9 games in 2 years, I believe it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those guys just don't move the same, and Gus Edwards just doesn't move the needle for me. But I think the offense for the Chargers as a game plan is going to be more run the ball. Like, we're not going to see Herbert throw the ball 40 times a game anymore.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Hold on. I asked the Twitch if they could hear you. Yeah, they can hear. Okay. I'm with you on that. I don't hate Herbert passing yards under 3,600 and a half. Home run Seattle. That's not good. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, if this goes over, Herbert's just going to have to be really fucking efficient. But I agree with you, man. I mean, Quentin Johnston does not do it for me. I'm really not one to buy into these videos from training camp, good or bad. I want to just put that on the record, good or bad. I mean, I'm seeing fucking what's the guy for Xavier Worthy getting knocked off the fucking line of scrimmage in press coverage, bro. You're gonna tell me that doesn't fucking happen ever? You're gonna tell me it didn't happen to fucking Wes Welker and Tyreek Hill in their rookie year? Give me a break.
Jamar Chase was dropping balls, and everybody was calling him a bust before he took
Oh, my God. Thank you. That is a great example. Yeah. Give me a break. We call it FUD in the crypto world. Just I'm not a crypto crazy guy, but I do trade it quite a bit. Yeah, we call that FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and distraction. I forgot what the D was. Anyways, I'm not buying that shit at all. If anything, I'm totally fine with anything Xavier Worthy. But anyways, yeah, I still, from what I saw with Quentin Johnston last year, I'm not into him as a pro. I liked him to just kind of out-muscle people in college, but I don't know. There's something missing there for me. Josh Palmer is a guy I can get behind. Like, if I'm looking at a receiver, Ladd McConkey, I'm going to leave alone. If I'm going all in on a rookie receiver, I'm going to go all in on Malik Neighbors. I really don't see where the offense is coming from the Giants. We'll talk about that another time. But I'm going to leave Ladd McConkey alone. Josh Palmer. I mean, this guy, let me look it up right now. Hold on. Josh Palmer. So last year, he had 38 catches, 581 yards. He averaged 15 yards a catch. He only had 2 touchdowns, though. Year before that, 72 catches, 770 yards. I mean, he's 24 years old. Wow, he's Canadian. I didn't know that. This dude can play. If I'm going to bet on anything for the Chargers to get excited about, it's probably Josh Palmer. And if anybody cares about his line, oh, you know what? I actually don't even see it. I'm looking at Bet Online right now. I see McConkey. McConkey, 4.5 TDs, 775 receiving yards. Wow, that's a lot. 775 receiving yards is kind of a bit. So, anyways, we can move on. Fat Girls under Herbert passing yards. I like that. I like the Chargers under 8.5 wins at plus money. And then I if I'm buying anything, it's the running backs. Before we move on to the Raiders, mid-major, you have anything? If you don't, feel free to just stay on mute.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with you, and late for that matter. In the past 3 years, you have Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and I think Josh Palmer for the Chargers. You guys, the 3 leading receivers.
Yep.
Obviously, Mike Williams, phenomenal talent. He's never been healthy a full season.
Yep.
Keenan Allen, people love his route running, but he's never, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the perception of him is kind of a big play receiver. Josh Palmer, again, the young stud, a lot of talent, but not a huge guy. And with all those guys, he was able to put up 47, 5,000, and 4,800 yards. So I feel like the 3,600 yards, losing all that makes sense to me. I don't know, maybe it's just my circle, maybe that's Late's circle, that I don't know anyone openly saying his is the easiest over on the board. But at the same time, I think we are highly, highly, highly not putting enough stock into what Jim Harbaugh brings to the table. His first year as the Niners coach, do you remember the record they got with Alex Smith as quarterback?
No, I don't.
13-3.
Did he? By the way, did he draft Alex Smith? He was the coach with the Niners when they drafted him?
No, Smith was like number 1 overall, right?
Yeah. Oh, that was with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
He got drafted number 1 overall with the Chiefs. Then he left. Got it. Okay. So the reason why I asked that is I was just making sure Smith was pretty experienced at least. And I'm not saying Herbert is a rookie quarterback by any means, but
fair enough. Yeah. But obviously they had a lot more talent if you went on that team.
Yep.
But everywhere, kind of my argument is everywhere we have seen Harbaugh go, he is just fucking win games. It's as you put it, he's just a fucking dog.
Mm-hmm.
Every fucking video I see about him and his camp, it's not stupid fucking catches. It's not a 5-yard out route with Daniel Jones. I don't know what the fuck video that you posted was that for. But it's just this guy getting to know the team, the staff members, and the community, and everybody fucking loves him. And I think it's at Action Network. It's this fucking, they call it a luck ranking. I get it. And I think the Chargers were at the bottom of the luck rankings last year. But it's really just, do they have people on their team that are dogs, right? In the easy way to put it, for you to understand, Dennis Allen, the worst luck ranking in the world. And let's say Mike Tomlin, best luck ranking in the world. But if you want to kind of define those, do these people have dog, or is this guy just a pussy and tells people, the national media, that his receiver sucks and he's made no progression in the offseason like Dennis Allen has.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Harbaugh just has dog. I think Herbert he's a phenomenal arm talent, man. He's definitely generational in what he can do with the ball. Have we always seen it? Absolutely not. But something I found interesting. So, do you remember? Stupid question. When the Chargers lost by 40-something points against the Raiders, right? I think it was a primetime game with Easton Stick.
Mm-hmm.
So they lost by 42. Their season point per game differential was 53. So take out that one game, and you add in the other 4 starts that Easton Stick made. They were only a plus minus of minus 11. That's pretty impressive to me for a 5-win team.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to talk about luck or whatever, and or I don't know if it's offensive blowouts or defensive masterclasses, as you allude to, their roster kind of doesn't inspire much imagination or much inspiration. But if they went, maybe it was 4-11 or maybe 3-10 or some shit in 1-score games, and you tell me you have a guy who just knows how to win games in Harbaugh, I cannot get with you on the under at all, sir.
Well, here's the thing, and somebody said it in the Twitch chat, and I totally agree with them. I don't disagree with you. I respect Harbaugh, and I fucking hate Michigan as a Notre Dame fan. I accepted it was Michigan's year this year. He had been there for so long. He had been embarrassed. He had gone through the slumps. He was going to find success. He was going to win a championship. It felt like his year. I respect the absolute shit out of Harbaugh, out of both of them. He's got dog. There's no doubt about it. But here's where I disagree with you. The Los Angeles Chargers do not have dog. They don't have a roster of dogs. Will they in time? Yes. Give it 2 or 3 years? Yes. They don't have dogs right now. Quentin Johnson isn't a dog. Justin Herbert, unfortunately, is not a dog. Their defense, Khalil Mack is old. Bosa is unreliable. Like I said, I like their secondary a little bit. I like the safeties, I should say. I like Asante Samuel Jr. I don't know who else is on the front seven. Like, the offensive line has potential to dominate with Slater and Alt. I just don't know about right now. So that's my problem. I don't know about right now. I think I've talked enough about where I stand on the Chargers. Matt, do you have a bet on this team?
Yeah, and it's gonna be, you're gonna fucking laugh and you're gonna love it. And this will, anyways, it's gonna be the exact division record, or like the standings. Chargers 1, Chiefs 2, Broncos 3, Raiders 4th, plus 1,200. I do have 1 unit on it as of right now.
Wait. Say that again.
Holy shit.
Say that again.
It's the exact division standings for the AFC West. It's up on DraftKings. I don't know where else it might be able to find it. Chargers 1,
Oh my
Chiefs
God.
2,
That's
Broncos 3, Raiders last.
It's crazy. Okay. All right. Well,
I'm just buying into Harbaugh.
that's fine. I don't blame you. I will be there to buy into Harbaugh. Oh, great. The Red Sox are about to fucking go over in the first 5. I'll be in there to buy into Harbaugh in year 2. Maybe year 2, definitely year 3. But I can't do it year 1. Good on you. I respect that. By the way, if you want Coach of the Year, I believe he is 9-1. Raheem Morris is the favorite at 7-1. All right, let's talk about the Raiders. We'll transition to the Raiders. If you followed me last year, I was very down on the Raiders. My biggest over ended up being with the Packers. That was my biggest future play, which hit. Still got a little lucky. It was a bad read, right result. That's all. I'll take that. The Raiders, I feel like, was a right read, wrong result. I read Warren Sharp's book, and I can tell you that I had no idea that he also faded the Raiders. But if you're familiar with Warren Sharp, he is a bitter, salty, sore loser of a motherfucker. And a lot of smart people can't accept being wrong. He's a smart person. He's definitely a fucking stat nerd. They cannot accept being wrong. He spent half the fucking chapter of the Raiders talking about how he faded their under win total and how they went over and how just bad of a beat it was. I accepted it a little bit more because I took the data and the stats out of it. And I understand there is an aspect of sports that I don't think stat nerds really take into account. And it's kind of like hockey, which is actually a sport I didn't play. But when a team switches their goalie, when they pull their goalie, it tends to give the players on the ice a little bit of a spark, right? When a coach gets fired, when someone gets fired within the organization, it wakes you up a little bit. It's like, oh, fuck, we got to tighten up. You know what I mean? When the Raiders fired fucking McDaniels and bench Garoppolo, who are the 2 guys that I specifically faded. I was not a Jimmy Garoppolo guy, and I was not a Josh McDaniels guy. I'm sure most of you weren't. I'm not on an island there. But that's why I faded the Raiders on the win total. I wanted to fucking hammer it. Steak thankfully talked me down, and I just made it an average play. But for whatever reason, he just thought they had – he kind of simplified it. You got Devontae Adams as a wide receiver. He's not going to Las Vegas to lose. Max Crosby as a defensive end. I have bet on this guy twice now to lead the league in sacks. He has not done it, but I still feel good at least about the read. There's 3 guys on the defensive line that I have been investing in and I absolutely love. Max Crosby, Danielle Hunter, and Brian Burns. And I will go back to probably 2 of them this year. Here's the problem. The Raiders, I accepted that loss because the team, I watched some of these games, they found a way to fucking beat the Raiders. Or I'm sorry, they found a way to beat the Chiefs with Aiden O'Connell only completing like fucking 8 passes or something ridiculous. They woke.
Passes in the final 3 quarters.
Yep, thank you. They woke up. and they played for fucking Antonio Pierce. And I just got to tip my cap to that. But here's the thing. Now here's the conundrum that I'm having. I am actually not that sore of a loser. I will take my losses and I'll try to learn a lesson from them. However, there is definitely a time where I feel like getting my lick back, and it is so the Las Vegas Raiders in year 2, really the first full year of Antonio Pierce being a head coach. And I am not even fading Antonio Pierce specifically. I am more so betting that the Raiders can't fucking get away with it again. That's what I'm betting on. Now, I thought about wanting to fade the Raiders because Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator for the Bears, comes in. If you were a Bears fan, which I'm sure Leif can maybe talk about, you were either blaming Fields or blaming Getsy. I think. I'm sure nobody really likes Eberflus. I think Fields, I'm not going to sit here and say he's a fucking great quarterback, but I think Fields is at least an athlete, a playmaker with tons of potential. I don't know that I really give a fuck about Luke Getsy. Now, here is where I have the potential to get burned, because I'm probably going to pay to find out if Luke Getsy is worth 2 shits. Patrick Graham is defensive coordinator. He was defensive coordinator last year. The win total for the Raiders is 6.5, and it's juiced to the over. Do I think that is weird? No. It's over minus 130, 6.5. This is a team that won 8 games last year. They have their coach intact. They've got their key guys intact. Again, Davante Adams, as we mentioned, and Max Crosby. And it didn't matter who the quarterback was last year. That was a crazy thing. So you can look at it and say, well, Gardner Minshew isn't a fucking starter. He's not that good. Aiden O'Connell's not that good. It didn't matter who the fuck they had a quarterback last year. They were winning games. I don't think they get away with it again. I like the Raiders under their win total. And then I'm just going to talk about their roster a little bit so you can kind of get an idea if you're not familiar already. They had some people leave. Josh Jacobs is gone. Love Josh Jacobs. Big Josh Jacobs guy. Hunter Renfro's gone. Whatever. No real big significance there. If you're watching Hard Knocks, which I actually think this is the best season of Hard Knocks, I don't give a flying fuck about following around weird-ass Micah Parsons, Dak Prescott, and Gerald McCoy. I like the inner workings of an organization. I like seeing the front office and the scouts and shit like that. They got Jermaine Eliminour. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. I hope I did. He was apparently a pretty highly sought after lineman. The Giants signed him, so he's gone. And then on the acquisition front, they made one big splash. They got Christian Wilkins, who's an interior defensive lineman. That's definitely going to fucking give me a little bit of pause to add a good D lineman next to Max Crosby. And they got I don't really know that anybody else gives a fuck about Michael Gallup, Alexander Madison, Harrison Bryant, and stuff like that. They did draft tight end Brock Bowers. I thought it was an insane pick. I actually tweeted about it. It's not that I was anti-Brock Bowers because I actually took him to go to the Titans. Don't really ask me why, but I just thought maybe the Titans would make a splash and try to put another weapon in there. They went to the offensive line, I believe. They got Latham, which is Gallup retired. Thank you. Which is a fine pick. But what I'm getting at is I'm high on Bowers. I tweeted that I thought that this was one of the dumbest picks of the draft because it felt like the Raiders had other needs because they just drafted Michael Mayer and they just went with the guy who was like best available. That's okay for certain situations. I don't necessarily know that I'm cool with it for a team like the Raiders. So after that, they got Jackson Powers Johnson, another lineman from Oregon. And I think this guy's going to fucking start. That's why I'm telling you that. So they got a rookie right guard. A rookie left guard with their second round pick. They got Brock Bowers, rookie tight end. And then their offensive weapons are Jacoby Myers, Davante Adams, and then Zamir White. I'm sure you're going to see fucking Zamir White all over Twitter from the fucking fantasy nerds this offseason. And that's fine. Sometimes the fantasy nerds have been right and I've been wrong. They loved Isaiah Pacheco when Isaiah Pacheco came on the scene. I didn't really know shit about Isaiah Pacheco. I wasn't going to pretend like I did. But I'll give it to him. This motherfucker runs hard. I like him. Much better than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But do I really fear a team that's going into battle every week with a rookie left guard, a rookie tight end, Talon Tucker, whoever the fuck this guy is, Jacoby Myers, Gardner Minshew, and Zamir White, outside of Davante Adams? Because think about it. Davante Adams is probably, he could get traded. he could absolutely get traded if this team doesn't do shit. I don't think they're going to do shit. I don't see this offense being very competitive. They weren't good last year. I don't think they're going to be good this year. So now are they going to get that? I'm not going to call it puck luck, but are they going to get that like spark, that jolt that nobody really saw coming when they fired their coach last year and got this boost of charisma? I don't think so. Now, if anything, they probably have a little bit of expectations, or they think they do, not from the outside world, but they think they do. The defense is not good. Max Crosby, Christian Wilkins, I explained that. I don't really know who anybody else is. I truly don't. Robert Spillane, Nate Hobbs.
Spillane was a dog last year.
He was?
Sorry, same here. Made some big plays for them.
No, you don't have to be sorry. You can feel free to jump in and interrupt me at any point. I mean, I'm not fucking speaking the gospel here. Okay, fair enough. I'll give you Robert Spillane. If I am looking here at the positional rankings by Warren Sharp, the secondary is ranked 30th. The offensive line is 18th. The front seven is 11, but that's heavily skewed because they have the interior defensive line with Wilkins, who is one of the better D linemen, and Max Crosby, who is one of the best defensive players, I think, in the NFL. Receivers, running backs, offensive line, quarterbacks, head coach, nothing is really that good. I don't think this is a good team. Look at their schedule. Love looking at the schedule. So they have a late bye, which I don't think is good for a team that I'm expecting to not be good. I think you would like a bye early, unless I'm going to take a bet like to miss the playoffs, because then they kind of maybe run out of gas towards the end. But if I'm going like under win total, I'm okay with that mid-season bye. They start the year at LA playing the Chargers, a divisional opponent. Whatever you think about the Chargers, it's still going to be a tough game. Then they go from LA all the way to fucking Baltimore. Then you go there, you come home, you play the Panthers and the Browns. Very realistic, in my opinion, this team could be 1-3. You go on the road, you play Denver. Can you beat Denver? Sure. 2-3. Steelers, Rams, Chiefs, Bengals before they go into the bye week. I don't know. You get one win there. And then after that, you got opponents like the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Bucks in Tampa. And by the way, it's back-to-back road games at Kansas City, at Tampa. The Raiders are not going down to Tampa and beating Tampa. I'm sorry. Let my bias come out there.
Third road game in 4 weeks also.
Third road game in 4 weeks. Thank you. And yes, that is after a bye week, but I don't give a flying fuck. Third road game in 4 weeks. Then you got Falcons, Jags at home. That's not going to be easy. And then in New Orleans, the Saints aren't going to be good, but it's still in New Orleans in week 17. Then that's also, if you want to call it a look-ahead game, you got a divisional opponent. I don't think it's really going to be a look-ahead because I don't think they're looking ahead for anything. I don't see this team winning 7 games. I like the under. In terms of anything on the offense or player prop wise, because I say that because you can bet defense too, obviously. I love Max Crosby. If he wins Defensive Player of the Year or does something crazy with sack leader, and I don't have any money on him after betting on him like the last 2 to 3 years, I'm going to be very sad. But at the same time, if I'm going to be out on the Raiders, I want to be all the way out. All the way out. So that's where I'm leaning. In closing, that's where I'm leaning. I am all the way out on the Raiders. I don't really respect them. I don't fear them. Gardner Minshew is a fun backup quarterback. He's not a starting quarterback. I don't think that they're going to have a really fun time playing football. And for what it's worth, this division, the Chiefs are minus 230. The Chargers are plus 320. The Raiders are 9-1 to win it. Mid-major, what do you have on the Raiders this year?
In my book, this is the worst offense in the NFL.
Wow. So wait, on that note, before you get going, were you, because I got pushback on this. I tweeted it and I got a lot of criticism. Well, not a lot, but I think a few people commented and they were very critical of my ball knowing skills about the Raiders drafting Brock Bowers.
Terrible pick.
That's what I thought.
So it's a terrible pick when you consider the defensive cornerbacks and players they have also available at the time. It's the full context, right? Is Brock Bowers a bad player? Absolutely fucking not. Could the Raiders have used that pick for a much more efficient reason and player and a much bigger need? Absolutely. Anyone who tells you otherwise is just it's a biased Raider fan, honestly.
Yeah, and I don't know the people on Twitter, but that very well could be the case. Who are just, I mean, people in sports are fucking nut jobs, and they'll just blindly convince themselves of anything and refuse to accept any sort of negative feedback. So that could be right. I think Brock's going to be a fun player in the NFL. I just don't know that it's going to be in Las Vegas, or at least with fucking Luke Getsy and Gardner Minshew. Do you like anything in terms of the team, the win total, or not even like, but do you, in terms of just betting, like, do you like an angle on the Raiders, or are you kind of just staying away?
Yes. So you reference it every now and then. I love you for it. But I talked about the Falcons going early, and 2 years ago, which I think they won like 5 and 1 day over.
Yep.
I talked about the Panthers unders all season last year. I think they won like 3 and 14 or some shit to the under. This year, Raiders total team under every fucking game. Either first half or full game, outplay in every game. It's going to be fucking bad, DGen. You have Antonio Pierce, as you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Brought in Luke Getsy.
Yep.
Run first offensive coordinator, run first head coach behind a bad offensive line, behind a quarterback who doesn't scramble, by the way. Probably the worst quarterback in terms of foot movement, and a second-year quarterback at that. And you're also, if you factor in their secondary, as you put it, Sharp has it 30. I have it maybe 31st at worst. It's going to be really fucking bad. At some point last season, I referenced it. Pierce somehow just got away with playing a prevent defense where they just dropped all their corners and safeties because they knew they fucking sucked. But Max Crosby was just that goddamn good, and they were that inspired to stop the run and, force teams to do whatever. Their fault was that they won those games, and they didn't do anything to address those issues. They blinded themselves by saying these guys played over their abilities, and they're relying on them to do it 2 years in a row. And I just don't. We know it won't happen. You've referenced, when coaches get fired, that teams get inspired. Absolutely. That's just, it's not data driven, but it's a fact that in any sport we can prove, right? But look what happens when you extend those backup players to play longer than what's necessary, right? You take that backup goalie to start for a 3-week period instead of just a back-to-back game all of a sudden. Their skill or lack thereof starts to show. And that's really what's going to kill this Raiders team. Their secondary is fucking atrocious. They will not be able to get off the field. You're going to see this team get diced up for 5 yards and a 90% completion percent against them. They're so bad. Max Crosby is phenomenal. Wilkins is really good. They're gonna slow down at the end of the year because they're on the field for just 45 minutes every game, brother. Their offense is terrible. They have no skill outside of Devontae, and you said it. I am entirely 100% sure that Devontae is not on this team at the end of the year with Aiden O'Connell at the quarterback. And you're saying that there's actually a bet up for O'Connell and Minshew to be like starting quarterbacks. That's a terrible for me as someone who's picking the Raiders offense. I want to see that. You have books who are telling us that they don't expect this team to know what they're doing on offense. And I completely agree with that. But then you're telling me that this team is buying the Gardner fucking Minshew, who had a phenomenal season under Steichen last year. But before that, when he showed to be a starter or went to a season as a starter, did really fucking poorly. So nothing excites me as a quarterback. Zamir White runs a 4.2, sure, but can he hold up for 17 games in a season when he's behind by 10 points in the first half every game? I don't think so, man. I think this is but I'm with you. I got fucking burned last year like all the other goddamn Sharps, and I don't want to be stubborn and bet it again. But I want to somehow.
Yeah, I'm really good about that. Like I said, I'm good about not being stubborn, and I wasn't always. By the way, it comes with age and experience. But I do have to, like I said, I do have to give this is why you should always consult with people before you're going to make a bigger bet. And I told Steak I wanted to unload on the Raiders, and I'm also a believer of being a year early, a game early, a week early, whatever the fuck. And I think this could be the year of the Raiders crash and burn. They are favored in 2 games the entire season, which I also find to be pretty interesting. I just think their schedule does not line up very well. So the out of conference, they play. I'm sorry, out of division. They play the AFC North, which we know is probably the hardest division in football. The out of conference opponents, I keep saying out of conference, I have to stop doing that. The out of division opponents are also the Dolphins, the Jags and the Rams. Now, listen, I'm fading the Rams. I don't know how I feel about the Jags. Dolphins are going to be difficult. None of those are cakewalks. And then I just think when you play the NFC South, if you're going to play New Orleans, you don't want to go to New Orleans. So you got to go to New Orleans. And then I'm telling you, that third road game in the fourth week, as you mentioned, going to Tampa, I'll fucking put that bet in right now. The Bucks aren't, and they have a great rush defense. On the road, you're going to need to rely on your rush game. And if you look at this, they face the fourth most difficult rush defense schedule or opponents. So I just don't really I think if anything, you're going to want to use that running game, use Zamir White. I don't think you're going to find success. You're going to rely on Gardner Minshew and fucking Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers had a nice season last year. I'll give him credit, but that shit ain't going to work again. Fat Girls, what's up? Or Leif.
Yeah, my connection dropped, but I just wanted did you talk about their schedule towards like week 8 when their bye approaches? Because I think their back end of their schedule is brutal.
So I did, and yeah, I walked through this one actually game by game. So we talked about after their bye week. Well, no, I'm sorry. Going into the bye week, they get the Steelers, the Rams, the Chiefs, the Bengals. Those are all going to be difficult opponents. And I don't even think the Steelers are going to be that good. And I don't think the Rams are going to be that good. But the problem for the Raiders is they ain't fucking good. So after the bye week, they have 3 of their next 4 games on the road. And it's a lot of travel. So you go from Las Vegas to Miami. I mean, that's a 5.5 hour flight. You come back home to play the Broncos. Then you go to fucking Arrowhead. Then you go to Tampa. Like that's really fucking, that's a lot of travel. And that's tough. And I'm telling you, they ain't beating the fucking Bucks. So yeah, it's not fun. It's not fun for the Raiders. I'm on the Raiders. I'm probably going to be on their under wins 6.5 at a plus price. Anything else before we move on? Doesn't sound like it. Real quick, before we end with the Broncos, because I got to take a piss, I'll actually hand it off to you guys. I don't really have anything on the Chiefs. I didn't even really do a full deep dive on this team. If there's something I need to know about them, feel free. But I'm just in this mindset of Patrick Mahomes is such a fucking generational talent that I'm willing to accept. I think I said this last year. So I love player awards props, and I actually do fairly well at them. But last year, I didn't want to go crazy with MVPs. Sometimes I'll take 2 to 3. I think I maybe took 1. Maybe. I don't want to go crazy with MVPs, and I didn't want to go crazy with Super Bowl winners. I took 1 Super Bowl winner last year, the Philadelphia Eagles. It was a rat shit wager. But I think I said that Mahomes is just going to be a guy that wins 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. Now, the fact that he won back-to-back, I believe that does put him at 3 in 5 years. I'm okay accepting that the Chiefs might not win it this year. So if you were to be down on the Chiefs, that's totally fine with me. Like, I'm willing to entertain the conversation, and I won't fight you. But I think I've just seen enough, and I would love – there's 31 other teams. There's so many games to bet on. I don't want to have my units or my money invested against the Chiefs. And at the same time, I don't even really know what I would bet on. I like Pacheco. I don't really love any of their weapons, but they just figure out a fucking way to do it. So you got to love Reed. You got to love Mahomes. Travis Kelce is the most annoying fucking player in sports right now, probably. Do you guys have anything on the Chiefs? If not, we'll finish it up with the Broncos.
Go ahead, Pat Bills.
I have nothing. Go ahead.
Same fucking boat, man.
Okay.
I didn't look too deep into fading Mahomes, but I got this weird suspicion that big ass mountain.
Can you real quick? Can you talk for like 60 seconds while I go take a piss about whatever you're going to talk about?
Yeah, I'll fucking ramble on.
All right, ramble for 60 seconds.
Yeah. So I have no proof that can support this argument, but it's just a feeling in my plums, and it's paid off over time. But we just saw the big mountain that is Chris Jones get one of the fattest contracts for a defensive lineman we've ever seen. It feels like since he is the anchor of their defense and he just got his fat contract that he's been vying for and trying to play for, I honestly just don't know if he can stay healthy. And it just feels like if it is something, because obviously, they're not playing for the division, that they're playing for the Super Bowl. So who cares if they're second seed in the AFC West, if they're guaranteed the playoff spot? They're not going to push themselves, just like I think Kelce isn't. They know the ultimate goal. They're not going to push themselves, week 9 against the Panthers or whatever have you if they're behind. And I think these guys just play the long game. And I would want to fade these guys as opposed to more back them. That's just a feeling I have, right? Like Dejan said, it's fucking Patrick Mahomes. I was with the sharpest of sharps last year on the Ravens and got fucking embarrassed because the offensive play calling for the Ravens was atrocious and the worst of all time, and they forgot what they were doing for the previous 17 games of the season. Anyways, I'm also not really excited by their receiving core. I have to imagine Rashee Rice gets suspended at some point. I mean, I don't know how he doesn't. And then Xavier Worthy, I don't really care about the drops or whatever in practice. I just don't think he's that good of a receiver for the NFL. Sure, he's fast as fuck. He's also not that big. In the NFL, we know these fast little guys, they don't really stand the whole season. Mm-hmm. And Mahomes wants dogs on his, as playmakers. And, if you're not willing to put your body on the line, I think Mahomes will eventually just kind of move away from you. And outside of that, you're telling me you have MVS and the rest of the receiving core is what you have to offer me? That doesn't excite me one fucking bit. So am I going to fade them somehow? Not necessarily, but I'm also not looking forward to backing Marquise Brown and MVS and Mecole Hardman. I'm sorry, no longer MVS, I apologize, but Marquise Brown, a receiving core. And again, it's all predicated on losing L'Jarius Sneed, and I do think Chris Jones has a nagging injury all fucking year. It's just one of those things.
So, okay. Well, thank you, by the way, for rambling. Somebody in the Twitch stream said, pizza money long shot. Andy Reid, coach of the year, 50-1. So long since he's won. He's best coach in the league if they win division, especially if we get the 1 seed in our position to possibly 3-peat. He can't be ignored. Example A of a super fast little guy working out, John Ross. Yeah. So by the way, how is Rashee Rice not in trouble right now? Not trying to get all fucking,
I truthfully thought he already got a suspension, but I guess I'm wrong. But he'll get a suspension, I'm sure.
Okay. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Like I'm not the police here. But thought what he did was kind of bad. So anyways, the Chiefs are favored in 15 games. Here's the one reason I could go down the road of not being into the Chiefs is Matt Nagy's the offensive coordinator, but we know Andy Reid's the offensive really behind the offense, so that doesn't get me excited. I'm not a Matt Nagy guy. It's hilarious if you look at the free agent signings. Yeah, I mean you got Marquise Brown, Carson Wentz, and Irv Smith, 3 players. That's like the fewest out of anybody that I've come across. Draft wise, they traded, if I'm not mistaken, up with the Bills to get Xavier Worthy. So I have a bit of a vendetta or a bone to pick with Andy Reid and the way they draft, because I did have a 2-unit play. I've lost what I feel are some bad beats in the NFL draft. It's my favorite event to bet on. I had DeAndre Swift be the first running back taken, and the Chiefs took Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I was a little bitter about that. But I think for the most part, they've drafted fairly well outside of Mahomes. So George Karlaftis, I took a little flyer on him to be a defensive rookie of the year. That did not hit, but I think he's pretty good. Drew Tranquill, like I said, not the most athletic dude. He's from Notre Dame, but he's just a smart guy, kind of a ball hawk. He's everywhere. Trent McDuffie, outside of that, I mean, I'm looking at their defense. Nothing really scares me, although I do recall last year people kept saying this is the first time Patrick Mahomes is playing with a top 10 defense. And look what happened. So if you look at the rankings, I mean, they kind of rank pretty well all across the board, except for the secondaries 12th, the running backs 19th. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I think Pacheco is pretty good. I cannot find anything on this depth chart, on this roster, or really even I can think about in this scheme that I want to buy into. I just can't. So if you're down on the Chiefs, cool. They're favored in 15 games. They have a really interesting start to their schedule. The Ravens and the Bengals back-to-back at home. Then you go to the fucking Dome to play Atlanta. You go from Atlanta to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. Then you come home to play the Saints. I think they should take care of the Saints, no problem. That's also right before the bye week, and it's on Monday Night Football. You don't want to go into your bye week with a loss. However, you know what's going to be on their mind, even though they have an extra week to prepare, at San Francisco week 7. From there, the season kind of ends a little interesting towards the end. They play at Cleveland and at Pittsburgh, which I think are 2 interesting stadiums or locations, rather, for the Chiefs to be playing in, especially late. but I don't know, man. I mean, you go to Buffalo in week 11. Like, I'm just not seeing 11.5 win total. I'm just not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing 6 losses on the schedule, maybe 5. Bengals, Ravens, Niners, Bills, Texans. Texans at home. Yeah, I think that's it. So I don't have anything. We can move on to the Broncos. Do you guys have anything else?
Negative.
Okay. All right. So
I do have one thing, and I'm gonna find the line right now because I did lock it in. 1 second. I'm sorry.
take your time.
I did play Mahomes under passing yards for the season.
That's pretty interesting. Do you just think they're going to rely a little bit more on their running game because they feel confident with Pacheco?
That for sure, but at the same time, man, who the fuck is going to catch the ball? We know Rashee Rice is going to be suspended at some point, and I think that's where the value is. That's where I'm getting value. Because he's not suspended yet, they have to put like the lineup as if he's playing, kind of, right? You have to factor that in. You're telling me a receiving core led by Marquise Brown, Xavier Worthy, a retiring Travis Kelce is going to put up 4,300 yards? I can't get there. And this is where I'm comfortable playing because I don't know if I want to fade their offense or team as a whole, but I can fade Mahomes because if they're just winning the game, Reed doesn't push the ball. Like, he's not going to fucking throw the ball deep when they're up by 10. They're playing the long-term game, man. And I just don't know how we get to 4,300 with this depth chart around him.
Well, you know what I would tell you, Matt? I don't think it's a shit wager, but I don't like the bet. You're just fading Patrick Mahomes. Is that really what you want to do with your money?
I'm fading their depth chart. I'm not fading Patrick Mahomes necessarily.
I think that Patrick Mahomes can find a way to make magic with anything. Don't you?
I see your point. I absolutely do. I see your point, but at the same time, like I said with Chris Jones and Kelce, is Patrick Mahomes playing for 4,300 passing yards, or is he playing for another fucking Super Bowl?
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, fine. I respect that. The only thing, too, I will say,
I love discourse, though.
Yeah, I do, too. You know what you should hedge with when the time comes? When he plays against the Raiders, take the alt over 400 passing yards because they fucking poked the bear there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's finish it up. We're about an hour in. I think that's perfect for the AFC West because it's not really a division I'm like super into. And let's go to Denver. This is a team that I don't think anybody can really get super excited about unless you're fucking Jay Kazin and you're just a Bo Nix slurper. Or maybe you're a BYU fan and you're a Zach Wilson truther. So that's their quarterback room, by the way. So they have Zach Wilson. They drafted Bo Nix at 12. I don't know that I really agreed with the pick, but I will tell you this. I'm not totally out on Bo Nix. I am out on him at 12. So the one thing that's interesting is I feel like with all the rookie quarterbacks, which is obviously going into this draft, it was a very deep quarterback. What do you call it? Room? I don't know why I'm stuttering or forgetting what I'm trying to say here, but quarterback heavy. So a lot of exciting names. I don't know that Drake May really got me that much more fired up than Bo Nix, though. I will say that. But like even Penix, I was a Penix guy, and I know that the Falcons got dragged for their pick and their reach, and I get it. But like, I still would be really excited about Penix long term. I know he doesn't have that long because he's 25 years old. But Bo Nix is like a guy I don't hear anybody talking about. Now, I'm not going to be a contrarian and just be like, oh, nobody's talking about Bo Nix. I'm going to take Bo Nix. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying there is something where I think as a player and as a team and a coach, you don't have any pressure or expectations. And I kind of think that works well. And you're not really in a big market. Like Denver's not. There's no like crazy media, or pressure. I don't think. Denver's got to be a pretty cool city to be a fucking star athlete. I think Bo Nix is actually a pretty good fit for Denver. I always said he was kind of the Brady Quinn of the South. He went to Oregon. He ended up being, I think, a serviceable quarterback for them. He couldn't beat Penix. I think that's actually quite telling because in my opinion, Oregon is absolutely fucking loaded with talent. So the fact that he couldn't get him over the hump still says something about who Bo Nix is. But I'm okay. I'm okay with Bo Nix. Let's look at their depth chart. They've got Cortland Sutton. You've got Marvin Mims. I think they drafted him maybe a year or two ago. He's a young dude. Troutman at tight end. He's a fine player. Josh Reynolds is whatever. Javonte Williams, a very nice running back. I think he's coming off of an injury. I'm not 100%. Maybe you guys can tell me that. But he's supposed, not like a Nick Chubb injury. I think he's supposed to play week 1, if I'm not mistaken. They also did draft an Oregon receiver, Troy Franklin, in the 4th round. Not that I really gives a shit, or not that I give a shit, but they got my guy Audric Estime in the 5th round, running back from Notre Dame. You know, Audric Estime is going to get on this field, and I'll tell you right now, there is no quarterback running back combo that has more testosterone and muscle than Bo Nix and Audric Estime. So all I'm saying is this: when they get into the fucking red zone. Well, not really the red zone. When they get to the 10-yard line, goal to go, it's going to be a fucking problem. It's going to be a problem. You should just line up and fucking run it like a different version of the tush push with these big motherfuckers. So anyways, I don't know. I don't like anything else on this team. I mean, you look at their offensive line. I don't like their offensive line. You look at their defense. Patrick Surtain is a bad motherfucker. Don't get me wrong. But outside of that, what else do we really like here? They don't have Chubb anymore. I don't know anybody on their – I don't know their linebackers. I don't know their front 7. I'm looking at their rankings by Sharp to see if I'm missing something. His front 7, he's got him ranked 31st. He's got the secondary ranked 28th. I mean, so, okay, I'm not missing anything there. The receivers are ranked 26th. I mean, this is just a bad team. It's a really, really bad team. Greg already put in Bo Nix most interceptions, and I think that that's actually a pretty good bet. You know why it's a good bet? I think that Sean Payton, first of all, let me say this about Sean Payton. I think he's an overrated head coach. I think he was a Drew Brees merchant. And I think he's kind of one of those dudes I can't stand. If you're going to be an arrogant prick, you better be a fucking Nick Saban. Like, you can talk the talk if you walk the walk. If you're Sean Payton and you've lost that many home playoff games, especially to Kirk fucking Cousins, give me a break, dude. Give me a fucking break. This guy acts like such an asshole, and I don't feel like it's that warranted. He thinks his shit don't stink. You're not Andy Reid, dude. So I'm not really a Sean Payton guy, but I feel like Sean Payton must have seen something in Bo Nix. It feels like he might fit his style of offense quite well. If you read Sharp's chapter on the Denver Broncos, it was amazing to hear, because I was very critical of Russell Wilson. I'm not a big Russell Wilson guy. And the stat nerds last year, when I criticized Russell Wilson, they kept telling me, oh, but he's number 9 in EPA per play and number 5 in this and number 10 in that. And I'm like, are you guys fucking watching anything? Are you seeing anything? And look, I can't watch every game, so I can't necessarily hold it against somebody who can. But at least, I mean, if you're fucking watching Red Zone, you can tell that all Russell Wilson does is throw a fucking dump-off screen pass or a wide receiver screen, and he benefits because it gains 25, 30 yards. And then, not to mention, a 50-yard Hail Mary against the fucking Commanders that skewed his numbers. This guy sucked. And if you look at it from Sharp's perspective, from the stat nerd angle, all he did was throw it less than 5 yards, or he threw a deep ball. And he benefited from some sick catches from Cortland Sutton, because Cortland Sutton is a bad motherfucker. There's no Jerry Jeudy. I don't really care about Jerry Jeudy. I don't think that's a big loss. So,
Can I pause you for 1 second?
yeah, go ahead.
You like how you're kind of talking to them bonus and fucking Jake appeared out of nowhere?
Dude, that is weird. That might have been something to do. You know that the iOS and all this shit, they're listening to us. I'm telling you, there was probably some sort of ad on Twitter or notification that came to Hazen because he knew we were talking about Bo Nix. Anyways, what I'm getting at is this. Sean Payton last year, we remember the riff of I think it was Payton and Russell Wilson, I think, when they played in Detroit, where he got in his ass for not running a play correctly or something. And I think for the most part, people had Russell Wilson's back on that. And I get it. I understand why. But I also am coming from a point where I think Russell Wilson is probably a very frustrating player to coach. So I sort of empathize there with Sean Payton being so frustrated, not running his offense. They did tear off like a run of like winning 5 or 6 games in a row, which is fucking insane. I didn't know how they did it. I read the chapter. Turnover luck. That's what they did. Turnover luck. So are they going to benefit from that turnover luck again? I don't necessarily think so. But if you do, you should be careful about fading the Broncos. I don't like Sean Payton, but I didn't like Russell Wilson. I think there might be something there with Payton and Nix. Am I going to invest in it in any way, shape, or form? Not necessarily. But I do think they're going to let this guy fucking get in there, get as many reps as possible. And that is actually why I don't mind Greg's bet of most interceptions. It's like plus 350, which is insane. Might as well be like fucking Aaron Judge hitting a home run. So, through a length of a season, how many games is he going to play? I don't know. Zach Wilson ain't going to do shit. He's out in Denver, back in Mormonville. Well, Mormonville's not really Denver. It's more so like Utah, but he's close enough to his old fucking Cougar friends. That dude is checked out. He don't give a fuck about playing football. Him and John Elway are going to have so many fucking orgies and menage a trois. It's going to make their head spin. It's going to be all Sean Payton and Bo Nix. If you want to bet something on Bo Nix, I don't mind it because I think they're just going to let him run that offense into the ground or until his wheels fall off. Maybe he throws a lot of picks. Maybe he does something else. I don't know. I guess he doesn't scramble that much. But outside of that, what are you going to do? They have a 5.5 win total. 5.5. How are you going to bet on a 5.5 win total? I think the Broncos are going to be fucking abysmal. But I don't even think I have the balls to play a 5.5 win total under. That's really all I got on my rundown on the Denver Broncos. There's nobody that I really want to bet on. I love Courtland Sutton. He made me a lot of money. Week 1 a couple years ago, over 100+ yards. I thought the books, this was actually, Weston will appreciate this. I thought like a pro. I liked Courtland Sutton, and it was week 1, I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and you could get him over 100 yards receiving in week 1 at like 4 or 5 to 1. I was like, what? I don't even remember who the quarterback was at the time. But it hit. I put like 2 or 3 units on it. It was fantastic. Love Courtland Sutton. But that's about it. The buck stops there for me in the Denver Broncos. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this team. But if I do anything, it would definitely be fading. Matt, do you have anything on the Broncos before we shut it down?
Yeah. So, I'm sure I'll get pushback on this, but this running back room, I think it's one of the top, like one of the better ones in the NFL, to be honest.
You like Samjay Perine?
How the fuck, dude? Try that again.
Perine.
Samaje Perine.
Oh, I said Samjay?
Yeah, so I do. But I will tell you, and you got to remember, you're a big college guy. Javonte Williams, man, before the ACL tear, he was a fucking beast, dude. He was what Audric Estime wants to be in the NFL.
Oh, God, give me a break. Give me a break.
But yeah, if he had an ACL tear last year, coming off of that, didn't play phenomenal. I'm not putting it against him year 2. But then you have Samaje Perine, so take notes on how you enunciate that. And he's just an old veteran, man. Like, he knows how to get the yards. He's a great pass blocker. He's very adept at getting open in space. Then you have Jaleel McLaughlin. Jaleel McLaughlin, small, fucking fast as fuck scat back. This guy, again, he's not going to see the ball a ton, but when he does, he averages over 5 yards a touch, which for running back is really good, especially when you have a really bad offensive line like they do.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Audric Estime, and I think that we see 2 or 3 of these guys on the field at times for sure.
Sure.
Two for sure, but yeah, I think at least at times for sure 3.
I love that.
I mean, you have to. If you consider Bo Nix and Sean Payton, if you think about it, that might be the best quarterback head coach duo coming out of this draft. Just the way that Payton coaches and the way that Bo Nix plays. We saw every pass Russell Wilson threw behind the line of scrimmage last year. That's exactly what Bo Nix did in Oregon last year. Jake, what do you got? Interrupt me. Go ahead.
Well, he didn't raise his hand. He just came up.
I'm just going to wait my turn to defend Bo Nix. Go ahead.
I'm not talking shit on Bo Nix.
No, yeah, he's not. He's
That's
not.
how he plays. And that's exactly what Sean Payton runs, man. And do I think he's gonna try to prove that to people he no longer sucks as a head coach, because he was fucking atrocious last year. Huge asshole, as you said. The guy's a fucking dickbag. To be fair, he had Wilson as his quarterback, so he had no options to be good, honestly. But with Bo Nix, like you said, Russell Wilson wasn't coachable. That's the exact opposite of Bo Nix is. He's been told all his life he wasn't good enough. He's not the most athletic. He doesn't really have the arm talent. And yet he's still in the NFL. So I think he's just going to shut up and listen to Sean Payton, which I think is still a big resource for information. But I absolutely abhor their defense. It's so bad outside of Surtain. But what I am saying is I think their offense can surprise a lot of people and be pesky and keep them in games.
So on that note, Jake, hold on one second. On that note, Matt, again, as I referenced many times, how you pointed out the Falcons may have been a certain team to keep an eye on for totals. Do you think that the think the Broncos could be an over team if the
I think
offense
it'd
is
be a
pesky and the
sneaky
defense
over
is
team.
terrible.
I think it's a sneaky over team because I think the blind reaction would be the offense sucks and it would be an under team. In reality, I think the offense will be pretty efficient, but like you said, the offense is going to be awful. So I think it's a sneaky over team for sure.
The one thing that I'm looking at that gives me some pause on it is they're playing the number 1 ranked pass defense, like their schedule, the most difficult pass defenses and the 9th most rush defenses. So it could be interesting. Hazen, you don't necessarily have to defend Bo Nix. I was kind of saying that I think it's a pretty good fit. I think Matt was also saying the same thing. I don't know that he's going to have
issue. My one issue is you guys keep saying he's not athletic.
Who said that?
Matt just did. He said he's not athletic.
No.
He's not the most athletic. Yes, that's what it is.
Bo Nix is the most underrated athlete all throughout college and coming to this draft. So he was a track star in high school.
All right, we're not doing this. We're not doing this.
Okay, let me get to actual points.
Okay, thank you.
That's what I was gonna say.
I do not care about his fucking. I don't care about his combine numbers.
But he's an athlete. He ran a 4.6 at 250 pounds at the combine. That was the heaviest he ever was.
Yes.
He put on weight for the combine because he said he was too small.
Yeah.
He was way faster now. He's cutting his weight back. He's a very, very elite athlete and one of the best, one of the more athletic quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Okay,
You're
is that?
right in the sense that he plays a sport as an athlete.
Yes.
So yes.
No, I don't get this whole thing because he's not athletic. He's really fast.
Okay, well, we're not going to waste any more time on Bo Nix's athleticism. Do you guys have a bet on or against the Denver Broncos?
I don't think Jake does. He's just up here splooging still. I do think that the Broncos will finish 3rd and the Raiders will finish last. I'm pretty set on that. Like you said, it's a 5.5 win total. No team's going to take this team seriously, in my opinion. They're going to be way overlooked.
Yeah, that's the one thing right, and that does happen. The Broncos, nobody's gonna give a fuck. They're gonna be in look-at spots like crazy, and their let's see. Let's just look at their schedule and then we'll wrap it up. So they start on the road in Seattle. That's gonna be tough. That's gonna be very fucking tough. Come back home, you play the Steelers. Whatever, Russell Wilson, and that offense's first road game maybe, or early in the year road game. Then you go and you play Tampa. Then you go and you play New York. Oh, God, it doesn't start very well. 3 of the first 4 games are on the road. Kind of softens up after that, though. Raiders, Chargers, Saints, Panthers. They can win, 1 or maybe 2 of those games tops. Yeah, I don't see 6 wins.
I definitely don't see it from this macro view, but the one thing I do really like is for these overlooked teams that don't have primetime games, the Broncos only have 2. All that included, so the Broncos will only play 1 game this year on short rest. So, I mean, how much does that matter? It matters a lot, obviously, but
right.
There'll be even strength, if you would, every game. So I think they'll be overlooked.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. I think that's pretty much it for the AFC West. Matt, thank you, as always. People in the Twitch chat were saying they could listen to you talk all day. I concur. I'm sure Weston had a few things he disagreed with you with, but he's probably busy. He couldn't come up and spar. This is fun. We're going to do more of these spaces to preview all the divisions later, all the way up until kickoff. Really, we got the newsletter coming out tomorrow. Matt, I got Matt featuring an AFC East team, so looking forward to that.
Before you go, one takeaway: that AFC West. What's your bet?
My one takeaway with the AFC West. It's going to be.
Oh, Nix is athletic?
No. No, it's either between. Just. No, I know my bet. It's 2 units on the Raiders win total under.
I love that. My bet, I will fade the Raiders all year, every game.
Wow.
I will play the total team under every fucking game. And I'm waiting to find the first half lines against the Chargers. I'm going to put I'm not joking, 3 units off the bat, blindsided.
Wow.
You're telling me you're going to fucking go play a Jim Harbaugh defense in week 1 in the first half? They're going to fucking allow 2 touchdowns? Nah, fam. That's what the kids said.
It's week 1.
Exactly. So you're gonna see Antonio Pierce run the ball first and second down. Aiden O'Connell's gonna incomplete pass it. They're gonna punt the ball. I mean, Justin Herbert's not gonna have everyone to throw to, as you guys put it. There's gonna be 0 points scored in the first half.
Okay. I think you're hyping up Jim Harbaugh in year 1 a little more than I could. But that's fine.
I'm still fading the Raiders.
Yes, we're fading the Raiders. You're right. I hope you're right.
Yes.
I hope you're right about the Chargers being good because it means bad for the Raiders. All right, good stuff. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Newsletter out tomorrow. We'll do this again soon. Have a great night.
See you, brother.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out on Twitch. That was fun. Have a nice night. I'll check you guys. Not tomorrow. I'm traveling tomorrow. I'll see you guys Friday. Peace.